Good morning. Welcome to our webinar. I believe it's actually evening for most of you, so good evening. I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Katie. Actually, it's Russo. I just changed my last name. But I'm joined with two other people. I'll let them introduce themselves.
Hey, I'm Travis Barker. I'm with the Intercultural Programs Office.
Hi, I'm Zach Brown. I'm an International Student Advisor here at the International Student Services Office. I'm one of currently 6 advisors, hopefully soon to be 8.
Yes. Zach's holding down the fort.
Trying to.
So some quick housekeeping about the webinar. If you have issues connecting, exit the room and restart the Blackboard Collaborate. This usually helps people. If for some reason you still have trouble, you can view our recordings and a PDF of the presentation on our website. They'll all be posted on YouTube and YouTube. You can see and hear us. We cannot see or hear you. And then we're going to give a little bit of a presentation that has some questions that we typically get from new students. The bulk of the presentation will give you an option to type in your questions and chat with us. And then we'll also leave the chat feature open at the end so you can give us any feedback. That way we can improve the services to new incoming students. So until we open the chat feature, I'll let you know, and then you can start asking your questions in the box below. We will get started. So here's some frequently asked questions that our offices both get. So,
okay.
Zach, go.
So here at UTD, there are a lot of different student portals. I think they're all space themed. You've got Galaxy, you've got Orion. An important one for the International Center is going to be iComet. We still have a few paper forms, but we're in the process of making most of those forms digital so you can access them anywhere. So by accessing iComet, you can submit document requests to the ISSO that are sent directly to an advisor so we can process them. If you look at the slide right there, you'll see the link at the bottom. So definitely bookmark that link. That's something you'll be going to a lot. All right, this is a big question. So why doesn't my I-20 show my major? So an important thing to remember is that in America, most universities have their own names for every major or every program, right? But for the government, that can be a little confusing. So there is a standardization, standardized names and codes for every program, basically university program in the States. So the one that's printed on your I-20 is that standardized code and program name. When we issue the I-20s, we're pulling that information directly from your Orion account. So it's not something we're entering in ourselves. So if that's the program you're a part of at UT Dallas, that's what we're pulling it from and putting on the I-20. So most likely, I would say 99% of the time that's correct. If you're looking at it and it says like art, and you're not an art major, then that might be an issue and that's when you should contact us. Okay. How is the estimated tuition calculated for my I-20? So these numbers change about every semester or every year based on the minimum number of credit hours per semester, calculating for the long semesters, so spring and fall. It calculates the estimated living expenses, insurance expenses, and if you have any dependents. So your I-20 is showing that estimated expense amount and how you're showing proof of those expenses, right? Whether it's your own funds, sponsor funds, maybe a loan, or maybe if you've received a UT Dallas scholarship. The funds, like that amount printed on your 20, is not a statement of how much you're paying for your tuition, okay? So your personal expenses will most likely be very different. Okay, so here's some examples right now. I think, yeah, these are accurate. These are the current estimates that we have right now. So the undergrad, I think, yeah, the number for undergrad right now is for non-resident tuition. If you've received a UT Dallas scholarship of at least, is it 1,000? 1,000 per semester, then you're eligible for residence tuition. So that number, 48,023, would be lower. Graduate students is the same. This one's for non-resident tuition, 43,821. So to be issued an I-20, you have to show proof of that amount. If you have any dependents, there are additional fees. At the bottom, it says $5,000 for a spouse and $3,000 for each child. All right. So this is a lot of what I'm doing right now, is inspecting a lot of financial documents that students are submitting. The main word that you want to remember for these is liquid. So liquid means that it could be withdrawn or deposited basically at any point. So an example of a liquid account might be a checking account, savings account. If you get like a loan sanction letter, you'll see something like fixed deposit, time deposit, current account. All of those are examples of liquid accounts. Statements of investments, or maybe an estimation of how much your home is worth or something like that, those are not liquid, so we cannot accept those. If you were to submit a bank statement or a bank letter, the things that we're going to be looking for are proof that the funds are liquid, so maybe the word checking account, savings account. We're looking for a date within the last 6 months, your name or the sponsor's name, and bank letterhead. Did I get them all? Yeah, nice. If you're receiving a scholarship or an award from UT Dallas, you do need to send a proof of that. Usually you'll receive a notification letter or an acceptance letter like that. If you have any sponsor funds, so let's say you're not using your own personal bank account, but maybe a family member's or a friend's, that sponsor will need to sign on the financial affidavit. Okay.
Do you want to go ahead?
Yeah. So if you have any more questions, you can contact us at the ISSO. Because you are not yet current students, you can contact us by email at isssoprospective@utdallas.edu. If you go to the link in the middle right there, that's where you can schedule a phone appointment, so you can actually talk to us over the phone. Yeah, I would just look at our website. A lot of the questions that you might have might already be answered on our website. If your question is a little bit more detailed, then that's when you should definitely reach out to us.
Thanks, Matt. I can go ahead and do this slide, Travis. So a lot of questions students have is how do they even get to UT Dallas? So we have a travel guide on our website. You can see the link here. Students usually ask, when should I arrive? So just remember that as an F1 student, you can't enter more than 30 days prior to the start date of classes. So, Zach, do you know the date for this semester?
So the first day of classes will be January 14th. Yeah, so 30 days prior to that.
December 15th.
Yeah, just
around the 15th or 16th.
Yeah. Your I-20 will detail it.
Yeah.
Yes. Look at the date on your I-20. Way to go, Travis. A lot of students should be taking things into consideration before they schedule their flight. So you'll notice on your Orion Student Center in Galaxy, you have holds. The earlier you can come, the earlier you can remove these holds and then get registered for classes, because holds prevent you from registering for classes. Also, attending international student orientations, this is a requirement for F1 and J1 students. And so you can see our orientation dates on our website. Travis will talk about that in a minute. And then also the tuberculosis test. This is required for all students born outside of the United States. And so you'll have to take care of that before you can register for classes. It must be taken care of in the United States. So think about that when you're scheduling your flight. It's probably not a good idea to come the day before classes start. And how are you going to secure housing? So will you be living on campus? Are you living off campus? When will your apartment be available? Just things to consider. For airport transportation, we also have the information on our site. Some of our community partners offer transportation for students, so you can input your flight information and they can help arrange transportation to campus for you. We also have lists of taxis and Uber, all of that information as well, and there's shuttles that come from the airport that you can pay for. And the nice thing is our campus is accessible by public transportation from the airport. So that's also making it really easy for you to get to campus. Talk about that one, Travis?
Sure. So as Katie mentioned, one of the things that you're going to have to do is go to International Student Orientation. And so to register for that, you'll go to the link that you see on this page. there's a drop-down link, and you will pick the date that is going to be best for you, whatever your travel plans are. I will say, generally, it's a better idea to have an earlier orientation date, just so that way you get acclimated to the United States. You're able to register for your classes earlier, so you have a better selection of classes to choose from. But, obviously, do whatever is best for your schedule, but just keep that in mind as well.
And just to go back on what Travis was saying, so for the spring we have 2 orientation dates, one on December 18th and one on January 8th. So I know there's a big gap between those 2 dates. We scheduled the one in December around that 30-day deadline for entering. That way students who come can still attend. But the university is actually closed for winter break starting on December 20th. And so nobody will be working at the university until January 2nd. And so that way we can accommodate students immediately after coming back to campus. So I'm going to open up the chat function. You'll see in the bottom corner of your screen, you have the opportunity to type questions. We will answer those as they come in. We are available to answer any questions. I flipped too fast. We're available to answer any questions you have. If we don't know the answer, we can probably tell you how to find it, because we're pretty smart. So I know some of you are probably typing. Are there any other questions that we often get while we're waiting for people to ask?
I don't know about any more questions. I would agree with what Travis said about trying to take advantage of that 30 days. Even though the university is closed, you'd be surprised how many things are already done when you arrive. Setting up your new place, learning the city, figuring out how you're going to get on and off campus if you're living off campus. Yeah, exactly.
Getting your books, which with the university being closed, there might not be the actual bookstore, but as we all know, there's certainly more than one way to get the books that you need. So, having time for all of that to ship to you, so that way that by the time that January comes and the spring semester begins, you're going to be in the best place to be able to start that process in your semester.
All right, so I see a question there. What would be the last date to submit or request for the I-20? So I don't want to give you a hard date, but there are things that you want to think about, right? So once you receive, apply for the I-20 and we process it, we issue that I-20 for you, you're going to have to consider the amount of time it will take to get there. If this is your first time requesting I-20, you do get complimentary express shipping. So most of the time it takes about a week to get to you for that. But once you have that, you also have to schedule the visa interview. Now, depending on your country, it could take about a month to get that visa interview, right? So once you have the visa approved, technically, you could buy a plane ticket the next day and come over here. But as we just said, there are a lot of things that you have to prepare to even be able to register for classes.
Exactly what Zach said. I would add to that, just keep in mind that those processing times.
Yeah.
And depending on, like Zach said, where you are, when you're applying for the visa interview, you might have to schedule it 2 months in advance. So there's not a hard deadline to answer your question, but I would say give yourself enough time to put yourself in the best position to succeed.
And remember those dates that Katie mentioned that the university is closed during. If you're wanting to get your I-20 during those dates, no one's going to be on campus to do that. So.
I see someone's asking, what would be the eligibility for spring 2019 students to get scholarships? Scholarships are really depending on what scholarship you're applying for. So there are scholarships available for a certain academic major. There's some scholarships from community organizations specifying what criteria they have. If you look at the financial aid department's website on UT Dallas, my suggestion is to go to the UT Dallas main page and there's a search box and look for financial aid. It will give you information about how to apply for scholarships, where can you find those, and what do you need to do in order to process those. Do we have another question? Still waiting for some questions. Some of the common questions I've seen around this time of year is about the TB test. I know I mentioned that, the tuberculosis test. So that's managed through the Student Health Center, and through the Student Health Center you can set up an appointment when you arrive and you can take that test. If you look at their website, again, search it on UT Dallas's main page. That's how I find every department's website. You can see how can you set up that appointment. If you have questions about it, you can email them. They also have paperwork for you to download prior to taking that test. They also explain how you can do this off campus, still within the United States. So if the Student Health Center is closed when you arrive, then you can go to an off-campus provider to take your test, get those results, and submit them once the university reopens.
Oh, there we go. So after reaching the United States, should I contact the ISO? So there have certainly been times in the past where students have come straight from the airport with their luggage in hand to our office. Not necessary. If you look at our website, you'll see that there's a pre-arrival checklist and a kind of a checklist once you've arrived, right? And one of the things on that post-arrival checklist is submitting copies of your immigration documents to the ISO. So those immigration documents would be a copy of your signed I-20, your F-1 visa, and your passport, your I-94.
Yes.
All right. So once you've come through the port of entry, that's when you'll get a new I-94 and I-94 number. If you just Google I-94, you'll find the website and be able to print it out there. That's the thing that you'll want to report to the ISO before Census Day. If there are issues with your I-20 or if you have any questions specifically, then of course you should come see our office. But it's not a mandatory requirement for every international student who comes into the country.
Yes. We have a question about the TB test. Is this the only medical test required, and should it be taken only after arriving on campus? So the TB test is required for any person born outside of the United States attending classes at UT Dallas, regardless of your visa type. It has to be taken in the United States. So yes, you'll need to take it after you arrive to the United States, but you don't necessarily have to take it on campus. It is offered on campus, and it's covered by your student health insurance that you're required to have, but you can take it off campus. The only other medical test required is if you are under the age of 22, you have to take the meningitis test. That's also offered at the Student Health Center, and you submit those documents to the registrar's office to be able to register for classes once you finish doing the test. This is only for you if you're under the age of 22 when you're entering the university. So if you're already 25, you don't need to do this. What is the procedure to change a major?
Okay, so there's not an exact form or e-form on iComet for changing a major. When you change your major, the first thing you're going to want to do is contact the new academic department, contact the registrar to get that change on your actual academic records. Once that change actually shows up in Orion, it will be sent to our office electronically, okay? Either at registration times or when CBIS is updating, that's when that can be updated. Usually when you change your major, you'll get an automatic email from the ISO saying that, oh, we've updated your I-20, you can come pick it up. If you have two majors, you'll get an email saying, or asking you which one would you like printed on the I-20. But generally, it's mostly an automatic thing. If you're noticing that you've changed a major and you haven't heard anything from the ISO, that's when you should contact us to see if you can get your I-20 updated.
Can you please explain whether the tuition plan is for graduate students as well? The mail states the fees for 4 years.
So I think if you're looking at the financial affidavit, I think it's the second page will give you the figures. It's separated between graduate and undergraduate. If you go to our website, you can see all the breakdowns. Undergraduate in-state and out-of-state tuition, graduate for maybe if you get a teaching assistantship for 1 semester, 2 semester. So there's a lot of breakdowns on our website, so I definitely would recommend looking there.
So it looks like there was an addition to that question. I meant the variable and fixed plan. Okay, so UTD has guaranteed tuition and variable tuition. So guaranteed tuition means that you pay 1 flat rate per credit hour for the entire time you're studying at UT Dallas up to 4 years. So yes, as a graduate student, you're probably taking 2 years. You could do that plan. Now, this is a little bit more expensive than the variable tuition, which you can choose if you want to. So variable tuition, you pay a little bit less during your first semester, but that could change. The pricing could change during your second or your third semester, and so in the end, it might end up costing you more money. The Bursar office is in charge of all the collection and billing of financial fees and tuition. So you can look at their website to see more details. That also has their contact information. Since they're in charge of charging the tuition and fees, if you have questions specifically about that, I recommend emailing them.
And for the variable and fixed plan, I'm pretty sure those are new options at UT Dallas, right? So as of now, that doesn't affect the proof of funds that you need to show to receive the I-20. I know there are ongoing conversations to see how that might affect it, but as of now, the number would remain the same.
Another student, I have not yet requested an I-20, and there's no mention of scholarship on my offer letter.
Those are going to be two separate things. Your offer letter is just your acceptance letter, meaning that you've applied for that school and you've been accepted to it. Scholarships are going to be done separately. So as far as eligibilities for scholarships, anything like that, most of that is going to be done through your academic department. And so I would shoot those questions to your academic department and see, A, what scholarships do they have available? B, what are the eligibilities or what are the deadlines for submitting, paperwork for that? Because at this point, I would imagine that the majority of scholarships for the spring semester, those applications have closed. But you're certainly welcome to, expand your search, see what else is available out there. Scholarships are very competitive, and they usually do have very early deadlines. So I would plan it at minimum 6 months in advance for those. And that's a very, very conservative option.
Yeah. And keep in mind, ISSO we're not in charge of any scholarships. So all scholarships come from either an academic department or an outside organization. And as I mentioned before, you can look at the financial aid website to see what those options are. And Travis also mentioned your academic department. You can look at their page and talk to them to see if there's available scholarship opportunities. As a new incoming student, are we eligible to apply for TA/RA positions during spring 2019?
You are eligible to. If it's your very first semester in your graduate program, they do have open times to apply for the TA and RA positions. Again, like a scholarship, those are incredibly competitive, and you need to take care of those applications much, much more in advance than, I would say pretty much as soon as you submit your application to your program, immediately after or immediately upon finding out that you've received admission, then to start that process of applying for a TA or an RA position.
And it wouldn't really help in the issuance of the I-20s, but you're certainly able to apply for scholarships in the TA and RA set once you've arrived to start later in your program.
Sure.
Yeah. Apart from the signed I-20 and the F1 visa copy, do we have to send in any other documents except Form 94, which I understand would be given to me when I land?
Yeah, so you're correct. You're understanding correctly. Those 3 documents are the ones you need to submit to our office. Those need to be submitted, I would say, before Census Day. If you do not submit those documents, then you will actually get a registration hold that would keep you from registering for classes for the following semester. So definitely be sure you submit those. You are able to submit those through iComment. You do not physically need to come to our office or submit via email. You can upload all of them in iComment. Another important thing that I would take note of is to update Orion with your new U.S. residential address once you've arrived here. It's also very important.
Yeah, I would add on to that. That is something that it's so important that your visa status can be terminated if you fail to do it in a timely fashion. And unfortunately, I would say there's a handful of students every semester that are probably very well intentioned, aren't seeking to do anything, but because this is like one little tiny thing that they forget, they find themselves in very much an immigration emergency.
Yeah.
So if you get emails or anything from our office, please read them. We're not going to send you an email just to say, hey, hope you're okay, haven't heard from you in a while. When we send you information, it's stuff that is very critical for maintaining your status in the United States.
Okay, so I think you're wanting clarification about that. I say, can you please repeat the update address part? So currently, when you apply for UT Dallas, your biographical information is already listed in Orion, but that biographical information is what you put on your application. So for pretty much everyone, your current address is going to be your current international address, your non-United States address. Once you arrive in a settled housing, whether it's on campus or off campus, you're going to want to log into Orion, the student side of it, and update your address to reflect where you're currently residing.
Yes. Even if you're in a temporary space initially, maybe you're staying with a friend, even at a hotel, put that address, and then as soon as you move to your permanent location or your next location, whatever that might be, put your address in there. Students asking, do we have to mail the high school mark sheet to the university, or do we have to upload it?
I would say if you're not being requested that from the admissions office, then it shouldn't be necessary. But if for a concrete answer on that, I would reach out to the Office of Enrollment Services and see if that's something that they require. For most of the time, if you're going into a graduate program, I don't believe that would be something that they would require the high school, maybe your undergraduate information. But again, seek out the Office of Enrollment Services for a more like concrete answer on that.
And I know we've mentioned a lot of other departments. So here in the United States, universities are decentralized. So each department is in charge of different things. So for ISSO, Zach's team, only in charge of your immigration, your I-20s, getting those documents, helping you maintain your status. The admissions and enrollment services that Travis mentioned, they're in charge of collecting all documents and processing your application in admission to the university. So each thing you have questions for, you might have to go to a different office. And this is helpful because that way you know you're getting someone who specializes in that information.
Yeah.
Someone's asking, do we have to submit a hard copy of immigration documents after submitting an email copy?
Yeah, just the scans or the photos that you have of it will be sufficient. Just make sure it's easy to read so we can confirm everything on it.
Right, yeah, I would say, before uploading that information, make sure that it's a good scan, that that your picture is able to be seen, that the words are legible, things like that. You don't want a giant smear across your visa page.
Yeah, I think mistakes I see a lot are students sign the wrong line on the I-20. So you want to sign on the line that your name is printed over. You do not want to sign in the parent or guardian section. And a lot of students will just submit like the stamp of their visa. You want the entire visa page from your passport.
Some good questions we have. We still have time for more questions, so please feel free to type as many as you have. We'll wait for a little bit.
While we're waiting, I'll kind of tack on to something that Katie mentioned a moment ago, and that's kind of managing your expectations once you get here. And so, like Katie said, most American universities are decentralized, and so don't be surprised if you don't get all of your answers or all of your questions answered in one visit to one university office. We have a certain body of knowledge that we know. Typically that's going to be around immigration information or things that are pertinent to maybe just international students. But if you have a question that's going to be very broad and doesn't necessarily apply to just international students, maybe things like housing, or if you have disability services that you're wanting to look into, we could certainly point you in those directions, but there's a lot of times where we just don't have the answer. But we're happy to get you to the people on campus that do have those answers.
And to add on to that, as an international student, from the time you start to the time you finish, basically you want to have this mindset that you're balancing two separate things, the academic side and the immigration side. You know, you might have a time during the semester where you want to drop a class and your academic advisor says, sure, you can drop that class. That academic advisor might not be aware of the immigration implications of that decision. We just recently had a student where their academic advisor told them they could drop the class. That put them out of status, which put them in danger of being terminated, right? So definitely weigh the immigration implications of any academic decision you would make and vice versa.
Right. And another thing, you know, this is something that gets a lot of people into situations that they could have easily avoided. People will say, well, my friend told me. And so understand that there's a lot of different situations, and your friend's situation may be categorically different than your situation. And so for those reasons, you may get an answer to the same question that would be different than maybe your friend would get, because there's kind of intangible differences, things of that sort. Maybe in this academic department they require this, and in this other program they don't require that. And so I would say always don't just take it from your friends, but always seek out the university office that would be responsible for that and get the concrete answer. Because, you know, your friend, while they may have great intentions, they're not necessarily the expert on immigration or things of that sort. So, you know, always double check, you know, and they may be right, but just double check that information if it will be worthwhile to you.
A student is asking if we have a recorded copy of today's session in case they missed something. Yes, we post all of our webinars on our web page. So they're going to be posted on YouTube and Youku. And then we'll also have a PDF copy of the webinar on the webinar page that you went to access this webinar. Yeah, that's the answer to that question.
I don't see anything new.
Nothing new? Let's see. Sometimes we miss them.
One thing I might add, now that you've met me here, once again, my name is Zach, you might see that I've actually issued your I-22. You might see my name on it. That doesn't necessarily mean that you can only ask me questions when you come to the ISO. We currently have 6 advisors, like I said. At the time that you guys arrive, hopefully we'll have about 8. Everyone here is basically trained in everything immigration F1-wise. So you'd be well served to speak to any of our advisors. Right now, you're not assigned a particular advisor. You know, that might change in the future. But right now, you're basically able to speak to any advisor that you were able to come here. We'll see.
And we do, you know, to add on to that, we do keep record of any time that you interact with our office. So let's say that maybe you have an issue that's going on on Tuesday. You know, it's a Tuesday morning and you have time in between classes, and you come in and you speak to Zach. And, you know, you have a quick conversation and you feel, you know, good about that, and you leave, and maybe another question comes up. And a few days pass, and maybe like Thursday you come back to our office and you speak to another advisor. Well, because of the information that Zach would have taken down from your interaction, when you speak to that new advisor, they're going to know exactly what's been happening with your situation. So, yeah, like Zach said, don't feel that you have only one advisor, and that's your advisor, and that's who you always speak with. That's not necessarily how it works.
Yeah, but for your academic department, that might be how it works, right? So definitely check out with them. I think as someone said, anything else we should ask about or take note of before arriving there, I would just say look at the pre-arrival checklist on our website. It's going to be a really handy way, a really easy way to see all the things that you should prepare before arriving.
Yeah, that's the best resource. You can even look, as I mentioned before, we have our travel guide to UT Dallas, so that'll help you look at what you need to do in order to get to the U.S. and the campus. Of course, our pre-arrival checklist is the best thing you could be looking at. We also have a post-arrival checklist. Maybe just take a glance at that to see what you're expected to do when you get here. That way you can make some plans to start taking care of that stuff immediately when you get to the United States.
And if you're coming in the spring, I know Texas is normally known for being incredibly hot, and that's true, but it also gets very cold in the winter time. So, plan accordingly, look into that. I know depending on where you're from, you may be used to a cold environment. If not, it can get decently cold here.
Mm-hmm.
And on our travel guide page, we have just a recommended list of things that you might want to pack. Obviously, you're going to pack a little bit light. There's, of course, many things that you can purchase here, like linens and housewares for your apartment. But, you'll want to bring enough clothes that you can feel comfortable in all types of weather, maybe layers. That'll help. That way, today I have a sweater on, but it's probably going to get too warm to wear it later, so I can take off my sweater. So, yeah, take a look at that site because it has some really good tips for you.
So I have some more questions.
Yeah.
Want to do it?
Yeah, good question.
2 more, I think.
Oh. Can we visit the campus anytime after our arrival? I think we cannot visit the campus during winter vacation.
So while the campus is closed between December the 20th and January the 2nd, you can come to campus and park and walk around. You're certainly welcome to do that. If you arrive before that time, or if you maybe want to come to the campus after January the 2nd, you're certainly able to do that. It's a very walkable campus. It's a very modern looking campus. I would encourage you to do that before your classes begin, just so that, once day one of classes begin, you're not completely lost and 15 minutes late to your class. Which brings me to another point. Time in the United States. Be 15 minutes early. If it says 8 o'clock, it means 8 o'clock sharp, not 8:05. This is a very big thing to Americans. Time is super important, and it's actually seen as being incredibly disrespectful to be late. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, I would say if your class was 5 minutes early, it's 10 minutes late, generally.
Yeah, arrive early. I've had some professors close the door at exactly 8 a.m. when the class started, and no one was allowed to enter after that, which means we missed the class for that day. Travis and I had to do that the other day when we were having a job interview with students, and a student came 5 minutes late, and we would not allow him to interview. Yeah,
in the United States, it's really not seen as something that's excusable. It happens the same time every day. It didn't sneak up on you. So, yeah, keep that in mind.
Someone's asking, what documents do you need to carry on the day of orientation? This is a great question. So all students have to have a government-issued photo ID for orientation. So orientation also serves as your check-in process for ISSO. So we need to see a photo ID of you to know you are actually the person you say you are and that you have arrived to UT Dallas. This is your government reporting requirement.
Yeah.
Right? So your passport will suffice. Everyone will have a passport. I certainly hope so. If you do have an American driver's license, that's completely fine too. It does have to be a government-issued ID though, so we can't take just a photo ID from another institution. We recommend that you bring some type of copy of proof of your pre-arrival module certificate of completion. Now, we have electronic records if you've completed this. The majority of students do before orientation. Sometimes maybe you submitted that really late and we just didn't see it come through. If you submitted it 5 minutes before orientation, we haven't downloaded that yet. So you can bring it just so we know, and then we'll be able to check your completion. Probably the easiest way is to just download the PDF version of the certificate of completion on your phone, because you probably have a smartphone, I would assume, or take a picture of the page, take a screenshot, and that way you can just show us and you don't have to print out another page. Let's see. Can we repeat the last part? I'm not sure what. Can you type in here what part you'd like us to complete? Or, I'm sorry, repeat, because we're not sure which question you asked. Yes, we get all our questions in a list. And so we don't necessarily know what we've said and when. Trying to see if the same person had asked an email. Let's see. Or asked a message, not an email. Sure. Oh, completion of document part in the PDF. Oh, so all students have to take their pre-arrival modules before coming to campus. We'd like you to take them before coming to campus because that's the easiest way and it will give you the most thorough information. We recommend you bring some type of proof that you've completed that. So you can print something out. I just suggest having a PDF copy on your phone or a screenshot. That way you're already carrying your phone. You don't have to bring one more thing. Other questions we don't get?
I guess when you asked if you could come onto the university, it's not gated. Like Travis said, you can come and walk around as much as you want. That being said, if you came for that December 18th orientation and then the university immediately closes for almost 2 weeks, it could be a lonely time, right, where there's not a lot going on at the university. You might not be aware of what's going on in the city yet. There are a lot of great student organizations on campus, including cultural organizations that you might want to be a part of. I would go ahead and take the initiative to look, do some research, find those. I think there's a list of all the student organizations on the UT Dallas website. You can also search Facebook. I'm pretty sure they all have a Facebook group.
Yeah.
But you might want to see,
chat.
yeah, they might have events over that winter break. Some sort of cultural orientation or group orientation. So that's something to look into.
Sure.
Some of our more popular cultural organizations are the Indian Student Association, the Friendship Association of Chinese Students and Scholars, otherwise known as FACT. We also have VINCEPT, which is the Vietnamese International Network of Education and Friendship. So take a look, like Zach said, they're going to have info for you and you can always contact the current students and they'll have some really great resources for you. To reconfirm, even the TB test appointment would be closed during the 20th through January 2nd. Yes, this is correct. So all university offices are closed. Like Travis and Zach mentioned, the actual physical campus, you can wander around, maybe download a map and find where your buildings would be. But yes, you would not be able to schedule a TB test appointment on campus in between those dates. However, you do have the option to take that test off campus. However, but you will need to make sure once the university reopens that you bring those results to the Student Health Center because that's the only way they'll know that your TB test came back negative and that you'll be allowed to register for classes once they remove that hold.
I would say if you're worried about scheduling that test, go ahead and contact the health center now. You can make an appointment to go ahead ahead of time and set up that TB test. They might even be holding screening sessions. I'm not really sure. So definitely contact the health center.
Is there a specific date for the TB test on campus?
No. So you'll be able to schedule an appointment throughout December and January. Of course, not while the university is closed. Take a look at the Student Health Center website. They have a list, they have a link for immunizations, and you can find that TB test information. And it'll have all the paperwork you need. It'll tell you exactly when they're available for you to schedule appointments. And then it'll also have information if you want to take that test off campus.
And when you do arrive, the Health Center, the International Center, Registrar, Bursar, Student Counseling Center, we're all in the same building. So if you can find one of us, you can find all of us. So.
Yes. And there will be several offices represented at each international student orientation. So we have the Enrollment Services Office. If you want to bring admissions documents, you can bring those then. The Student Health Center will be represented if you have questions about the TB test or student health insurance. We also have the Counseling Center who can tell you about their resources. Housing will be available if you have questions about living on campus, and UT Dallas Police as well. So we try to make it as easy for you as possible during orientation. Travis and I are the king and queen of orientation, so we do our best.
How many days?
How many days does it take for the TB test result, and who do we contact in case one of our holds is not removed? Okay, so those are two separate questions. The TB test, it takes usually 3 to 4 business days for those results to come in. Now, if you're taking the test on campus, the Student Health Center will immediately remove the TB test hold. And then once the results come in, if there's an issue, so if it comes back saying, well, maybe it's positive, they're going to put that hold back on and send you an email. Now, even though they send you an email, it's going to be to your UT Dallas email, so check that daily. But I also recommend that you consistently check your holds. You are responsible for your account. And then in case one of your holds is not removed, you can contact the department in charge of that. So when you log into your Orion Student Center and you see your hold, you can click on the information for each individual hold, and it'll tell you what you need to submit and then who you need to contact. So it'll have a phone number or a website or an email address. You can send them an email and just say, hey, I submitted these documents. Can you tell me why this hold isn't removed? Keep in mind, once you submit documents or do whatever task you're expected to complete, it might not be removed immediately. So there's processing time with those. So each department's a little bit different. It might take 1 business day. It might take 2. Maybe it's removed immediately. So each department kind of manages that depending on what their resources are.
I want to highlight that, like when you see the department that the hold is for, generally if it's not that department, another department would not even have the ability to remove that hold.
Correct.
If you have like a tuition-related hold or something like that and it says bursar, if you came to the International Center, we wouldn't even have the ability to remove that. So make sure you're looking and see who has put that hold on your account.
Yes, I can't tell you how many questions and how many times students ask me, well, can't you just remove my TB hold? Here are my documents. And no, I have to be the mean one and say no, because each department is in charge of their own specific thing. I don't have that kind of power. Okay. Okay.
Oh, comment card.
Oh, when will we get our UT Dallas ID card? And hopefully it's required us to get into the campus. So you can't get your Comet card. That's what our UTD ID card is called, the Comet card, because we're the Comets. You can't get that until you register for classes. So you'll have to remove all your holds, register for classes, and then you can go get your ID card. You don't need that to get to campus. So our campus is open. You can just walk into it at any time and walk around whenever you want to. There are certain buildings that you need your ID card to get to. Most of the academic buildings you can just walk in as long as they're open. There might be certain rooms, so like a lab that you have to take, so only certain people get access to that, and so you might have to swipe your card if you're taking that particular class. If you're living on campus in a UTD residence hall, you'll need your Comet card to be able to access that residence hall because those are closed to any non-residents. But yes, you will not need that just to come onto campus. I also recommend is looking kind of nice the day you have to take that picture. That's your ID for the rest of your time at UT Dallas. I went on Halloween and I was dressed in costume, so mine's really embarrassing. When is the earliest date to apply for on-campus if we want a place in fall 2019? That is managed by the housing department. So for spring 2019, you can already apply, and you can try to get a space for spring 2019. If you go to the housing office's website, they have all that information and the application link listed. Now, fall 2019, I do not believe those are open yet. They likely open in the spring. However, the housing department will have those specific dates, or at least the date range when you can apply. Just so you know, there is an application fee for applying for housing. It's minimal, but just something to take into consideration. If you are coming to campus for the spring, the housing office does offer temporary housing for you. And so you can look at their website and apply for temporary housing. You'll pay by each night that you stay there, and it's going to have a furnished room, so you'll have a bed and a desk. They'll give you linen, so you'll have sheets and a pillow and a towel. You don't need to worry about buying that if you're staying there temporarily. but there's a date limit. The reason why there's a limit to when you have to leave that temporary spot is because the students who are assigned that room that you're temporarily staying in get a chance to move in before classes start. So if we arrive, will we be able to use the cruiser, or do we have to pay for it to get to campus?
The Comic Bus?
Yes. So the Comic Cruiser has limited hours during winter break. So typically it runs every 20 minutes to get on the east route and the west route. Take a look at the Comic Cruiser's website and you'll see what that schedule looks like. You do not have to pay or show any ID to ride the Comic Cruiser. So if you're coming from the airport, you can ride the Dallas Area Regional Transport. That's the right acronym. It's called the DART, and it's a very small cost to ride that. It's about $5 to buy a ticket, and you can ride that to the George Bush Turnpike station, and then you can take a bus, the Comic Cruiser, from that station to UT Dallas. Or if you choose to, you can request airport transportation from our community partners and cultural organizations. I have the link at the bottom of the slide showing. And then you can also, if you choose to, you can pay for an airport shuttle or an Uber or a taxi, your choice.
Vegetarian.
I'm a vegetarian. Is there any facility for vegetarian food in the meal plans? Absolutely. So we have lots of different on-campus eating options. There's a dining hall that you can pay per meal, or you can buy a dining plan for a certain cost for the semester. There's also different fast food places on campus. Each one of them has some type of vegetarian option. And if you go to the dining services website, they'll show you which options are vegetarian friendly. So you can go to any of the places and request something. A lot of our on-campus restaurants are nice because you can specialize what you want. You can, I can't even think of the word. You can decide which ingredients you want. So if you're a vegetarian, you can ask for beans and onions and other vegetables instead of getting chicken or beef or pork. So that's going to be helpful.
Is it a very American thing to be able to adjust your meal before you order? Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point from Zach, is that I know that's not as popular in other countries, but here in the United States, pretty much any restaurant you go to, you can customize your meal. So if there's a certain hamburger at a restaurant that you're like, wow, all the toppings look really good on that and the sauce, but you don't eat beef, you can say, well, can you make this a vegetarian burger? And then they'll be able to give you something. It might be made out of some kind of bean or tofu. Sometimes it's a mushroom, which I really love. Most restaurants have that kind of option, so just ask.
And one more thing for that, not just for vegetarians, but all international students, it can be a little difficult to adjust to the American palate of food. When you're, especially, if you're coming to a new country, it can be difficult to adjust to that diet. All students have access to a licensed dietitian at the Student Wellness Center, which is also in the Student Services building. You can make an appointment with that dietitian, and they can help you kind of plan out your meal plans and things like that, really help you adjust to the food you might find here.
Yeah, she's really great. She can set up regular meetings with you. She can show you a menu or a different meal plan that would be helpful. She also has a YouTube page called Healthy Comet Eats that gives out these really cool instructions on how to make healthy food in your own apartment. I actually take some of the recipes for my home, even though I'm considered an adult and I should be able to cook. But it's a really cool site. So look for the Student Wellness Center and you can find that information.
Never mind.
So someone's asking, looks like about payment for things, do we need to keep cash as we wouldn't have opened any bank accounts? We would recommend bringing a small amount of cash with you. If you have a bank account in your current home country, you can check with that bank to see, can you use your credit card or your bank card here in the United States? and what type of exchange rate they'll give you. Sometimes foreign banks have agreements with U.S. banks, and so you might be able to easily set up an account. And a lot of our cultural student organizations can tell you what is the easiest way to set up a bank account and what are the best banks that they've used. We can't recommend one, but check with some current students because they'll have some good recommendations. So you're going to say something. All right, looks like we have time for maybe 1 or 2 more questions. No, that's okay. Well, feel free to type another question if you have one. So if you have more questions, we are available through email. Definitely email is a really good way to contact us. So Zach's office for any advising, I've listed out a couple things that they do. You can email ISSO Perspectives at UT Dallas. And for Travis and I, we do more of the student transition initiative. So international student orientation, helping you get from the airport. And we do a lot of the fun events on campus. So send us an email if you have questions to IC programs. And we have a question. So what weather should we expect when we arrive? I've heard of black snow situation, so would we experience that?
Black ice.
I was like, I don't know. So Travis mentioned that Texas weather can, run the gamut from very cold to very hot. I would say this time of year it's pretty cold. In Texas, we don't get a lot of snow. It does happen, and usually the university closes, so hey, fun, free day off. And there's often ice on the roads, and so that's often when some offices will close because it's too dangerous for students to be traveling. And I would take a look at the weather channel or a weather website to see what the weather is expected to be like when you arrive. And then, of course, closer to your arrival date, keep watch of that so you know what that temperature and what to expect. Is there going to be rain? Is there going to be ice or snow?
And you'll learn that it's a Texas joke that you can't predict the weather here.
Yes. Says if you don't like it, wait 5 minutes. What is the agenda for International Student Orientation? So International Student Orientation starts promptly at 9 o'clock a.m. You are not allowed to be late. Travis already talked about this. If you miss more than 15 minutes of orientation, sorry, we won't let you in because you've already missed some really important information that the U.S. government requires you to know and requires our department to give you. And so you'll have to attend the next session. So we start checking students in around 8:15. Like I said, bring your government ID, and so that way we can check you in. And it's, like I said, it starts promptly at 9. It usually ends by about, the actual presentation ends between 12:30 and 1, and then we offer an optional lunch that we will pay for. How do we sign up for all the emergency announcements? So in your Orion Student Center, Zach already mentioned updating your address. There's space for you to update your cell phone number, your email address, your personal email. Do that anytime any of that changes. You'll automatically be signed up for the UT Dallas text alert. So as soon as there's an issue on campus with weather or safety, you'll get a text message. They also test that every single month. So you'll get a text message to your cell phone.
They should also send it to your UT Dallas email address.
As a freshman student, do I have any job opportunity?
Okay, so Travis mentioned earlier, one answer might be different for your situation. So generally, if you're an undergraduate freshman who has not been, if you're not transferring from a high school as an F1 student, right, generally your only options are on-campus employment. Employment things are where it can get a little messy, so that's a question that I would recommend coming to one of our workshops, like the OPT and CPT workshops that we have, or just coming to speak with an advisor. But generally, as a freshman, on-campus employment is what you're going to be seeking, and in which case you want to look on Handshake, I think is the student portal for student employment.
Yes, the Career Center manages all on-campus jobs.
Yeah, and on the second day of our orientation, we usually have a really good presentation. And,
yeah, and that's in the fall when we have a second day for the orientation. But the nice thing is all that information can be found at the departments on campus.
Or on our website.
Yes. Okay, so it looks like we have time for this last question, and then you can email any others. Is there any WhatsApp point of contact for questions or just email? Our office does not have WhatsApp. We have Facebook and we have Instagram. You're welcome to ask questions on Facebook. I will say it's easier for you to email us because it's very easy for us to just go through questions through email and answer all of those questions. We have students who help us with that as well, so it makes it a lot simpler for us to give you those details.
And if you do send us an email, be sure to have some way to identify yourself. Don't just say, send it from your personal email address and then say, thanks, Harsh. We have, several hundred Harshes on campus. So you need to let us know something about you so that we can know, what is maybe most specific to your situation.
Also, there are about 10,000 international students at UT Dallas. So we get hundreds and hundreds of emails a day. We do our best to respond to those as soon as possible, but it could be several days before you receive a response. Yeah. If it's urgent, so that's when you want to come to the office.
Yeah, we usually say allow 2 to 3 business days before getting some type of response in the email. And that could change depending on how many emails we've gotten, but yes, it does take us a long time to filter through those. Okay, well this concludes our webinar. As I mentioned, this is recorded and it will be posted on our YouTube page. Give it about a week. It takes us a little time to process that. We have to edit it and then post it. We'll also have the PDF of this presentation posted on our website as well. And of course, we have all the email addresses, so please feel free to email us. Thank you so much for joining.
Yeah, we'll see you spring.
Yeah, or fall.
Yeah.